Poland Daily Business Edition. Tonight our topic is drones or unmanned flying objects. Don't confuse it with unidentified flying objects. The person who takes care of it, of legislation, of testing in our government is Mrs. Małgorzata Darowska of Ministry of Infrastructure. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
And let us start from this, how the government is looking at drones. What are major focus for you as a legislator, as a person who creates rules?
Well, I would divide it into two, let's say, two fields. First field is how administration is organizing itself to be prepared for the new, let's say, dimension, for the new industry. It's one question. And the second question is what benefits can bring drones into the public administration. And in the first field, I must say that the drones, it's something new in our. It's something in between the digital and infrastructure world. This is why we do work. We do work in, let's say, we are preparing ourselves to organize the public administration in such a way to be, let's say, robust and well organized to work with stakeholders in the future, like in the telecom some 10, 20 years ago. In the second field, due to, according to our, let's say, white paper, which we have published in February this year, public administration is a big, let's say, customer for drone services. So I'm talking about the public administration central level, but also on a local government. So in last year, the Ministry of Entrepreneurship has published the report about the use of drones in a local government. And there you can find there a lot of information about the own tasks and tasks which are designated to local government from the central government. So the picture of, let's say, the usage of drones in the public administration is well defined. Mm-hmm. Now, we do work on a very specific demonstrators. It means how public administration can use drones. And one thing is very important. Public administration is working on a legal basis. So we need the legal basis to operate. Talking about, for example, the police or the firemen, they need very precise procedures how to work in order to use drones legally. So, after defining the whole picture, whole task that can be done with the use of drones, we started to work on a very specific demonstrators and very specific projects in order to implement procedures and rules and guidelines how to use drones, for example, in the police, for the environmental purposes, in many fields.
Do we use existing law and existing procedures and just modify them for using or applying them to drones, unmanned flying objects, or it is so new that we have to create new laws, new legislation for that?
We do have legislation for drones. We have our published regulation, which was, I would say, it's a BVLOS regulation, which was published the last day of January this year. And this law is the basis for the flights oversight of the operator, and also this law allows automated flights. Not autonomous, but automated flights. So this is aviation, let's say, regulation. Also, recently the European package of regulation, which will be binding starting next year, approximately June, July, was published. So we are preparing ourselves for the new regulations in Poland. So I would say that there is a package of regulation, but it's not the end. So we now recently last week the EASA European Safety Agency has published for the consultation the first draft of so-called use-based regulatory framework. It is concentrated on the digital side of drone operations.
Like the standardization of the devices that help to locate the drone and within the cyberspace draw its direction and speed of movement in order to protect other drones from colliding?
This you are talking about is already included in the recent package of regulation, the regulatory framework, which will enter into force next year. But the new regulatory framework, use-based regulatory framework, is designated to autonomous and automated flights. And it will be more precise in terms of tracking and flying over the cities.
Do we need any special new infrastructure in order to receive and process the data that will be received from drones?
Naturally. Drones do not fly autonomously, in fact. Of course, they can fly autonomously, but these are for very special purposes. When we are talking about introducing drones into the cities to make them safe, of course, they do need infrastructure, namely they do need very precise information about 3D dimensional conditions into the in the city.
This is the infrastructure that will be provided by states for the drone operators and stakeholders to use.
Partially, it will be provided by the state. To the extent it must be provided by the state, but the idea is to make it to certain extent to put it on the market. But at the very beginning, it must be under the state control to make to be prepared for the just for safety security reasons. But I'm pretty sure that sooner or later it will be put on the market.
So when we will see the elements of this infrastructure operating?
The infrastructure is being already tested. First, let's say, first release of infrastructure will be presented, I assume, end of August in Katowice. And after the first presentation, we will decide how it will be deployed in Poland.
Well, as you know, the drone issue is getting closer and closer. The next few weeks in Poland will be very exciting. And Poland is actually one of the few countries that are on the spearhead in this particular technology. Mrs. Małgorzata Darowska from Ministry of Infrastructure, thank you very much for providing us with these details, and we will come back to this, I hope, very soon. And that was it for Poland Daily Business.